Biden's been doing some things on transgenderism which people find strange. So the first one was putting the pronouns on the White House website, which kind of cringe. And then he did. I saw the other day that the TERFs are up in arms, and I didn't expect them to have such a revolt, but they have a point. There's this. It was TERFs and Biden erased women were trending on Twitter.
Based.
And like all the most voted up posts were actually the TERFs saying, Biden go hang himself. And there is a reason for this. They, as Brett Weinstein points out, that if you want to create protections for women, but at the same time any man can declare himself a woman, well, there's no real protection for a woman there. That's just a thing people can opt into. I'm not saying that there are some people who are being opportunistic and declaring themselves women. This happens with the Labour Party. They had an all-female list, and the guy just said, I'm a woman now, get me on the list. And he did. And there was nothing they could do. So
can't fight it.
This does happen. So, opportunists do exist.
Yeah, but Brett Weinstein doing the Lord's work there. Evolution endowed the sexes differently. Protections for women are just and must be defended. Right, that's it. That's good. That's what I like to see. The biological essentialists have got to come out.
It also puts a bit of a spanner in the works for Kamala Harris, because, of course, she's the first female president, the first, woman to be up there. Yeah. And it's like, that doesn't really make sense. Like, if anyone can become a woman, so if you can scroll down to read Joe Durant's response, which I thought was interesting. Biden just made the word woman meaningless, so this is now officially nonsense. She's just a person.
Yep.
She is the first person to become vice president.
Yes.
Which, true statement. And it's not just,
it's not a true statement. She's not the first person.
First person?
Yeah, she's the first person to become vice president. That's not true. She's not the first person. She's
she's the first, she isn't a man or a woman. She's just a person.
Yeah, but they're all people. But man or woman is extra information about a person. It's one of those thick concepts that we talked about. So she's not the first person. And so but that means that Kamala Harris's contribution to the history, the moral progressive history of the United States, has just been erased. Yeah. She's not the first woman. She's just the first person. Not even the first person. Not even she's just a person.
To transracialism, which takes away that other character.
Oh, well, yes.
But this isn't just a redefinition. It goes into the military ban. So you remember Trump said that, if we have people applying who are transgender, we don't want them in the military, not because we just hate trans people, but we have to pay for things, we have to make special arrangements, and we don't want to. It's not worth it for us.
Yeah.
And this is a common thing throughout the entire world. Everyone has different standards on who they accept and who they don't.
And I just want to be clear about something. You don't have a human right to join the military. I know there's going to be some leftists go, but what about my right to join the military? You don't have a right to join the military, you low-T fat little right, you are probably useless, lazy, going while you have your little bloody console gamer, and you don't have a right to join the military. You are not capable. You have to attain a standard. It is an exclusive institution. It's not an inclusive one. Sorry, carry on.
The most extreme example I would give is the British military. I believe if you have eczema, so basically your skin it cuts off, you can't join the British military.
Yep.
Is that a violation of their human rights because they didn't get to choose to have eczema?
Not in any way, shape, or form. There's no human right to join the army.
Sorry, that's not the case. So what Trump did here is he defined gender as biological sex, which of course academically might be iffy, but in common parlance, if you ask a random person on the street,
it's only academically iffy if you believe in the distinction between sex and gender. And if you're not an intersectionalist, there's no reason that you have to.
Like why these things are connected is the opposing view. But if you ask a random person, they don't even make it a difference between these things. They're man and woman, they would say. They wouldn't really say male and female, or at least I think most of them wouldn't. And that's, of course, the thing here, that he just says, well, if you're a man, you serve in the male part. If you're female, you serve in the female part. And if you don't reach, don't reach. And this, of course, is somewhat controversial because, serving in the military. But where it really gets worrying for me, and I think the UK has proved this, is with prisons. So he gave a statement before where he was an LGBTQ forum, and he decided to say that, yes, in prisons, if you say you are a woman, you should just go into the female prisons, and if you're a man, you should go into the male prison. So we'll play this clip just so you can get him saying it.
So many of them. And so, yes, and by the way, in prison, the determination should be that your sexual identity is defined by what you say it is, not what, in fact, the prison says it is. And in that case, you should be entitled also to OGBYN. Anyway, you didn't ask that question, but you're not likely to either, I guess.
Yeah, can't even get the LGBTQ logo right because no one ever can.
But just a quick, sorry to interject again, that means that he's presuming the definition of woman is anyone who identifies as a woman.
Yeah, and this was his position. So If you check out his manifesto, that's not just a one-off. He had it in his manifesto under the section Increase Safety for Incarcerated Transgender Individuals. The Biden administration issued a Transgender Offender Manual requiring gender identity to be considered when making housing assignments. So if you came in and they would ask you what your gender identity was, and if you said female, the rule was in this manual, you must go to the female prisons. Mm-hmm. And the Trump...
I tell you what, if I ever went to prison in America, I'd definitely claim it. Yeah, I'm a female.
Why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
So the Trump-Pence administration has rolled back this standard and is now requiring biological sex to be used in determinations of putting transgender inmates in the prisons, mm-hmm. which is causing serious danger of assault and rape to those inmates. So
I don't doubt.
And this is just a lie. So the Transgender Manual, if you can get that up, this is the one he issued. He's telling the truth that they did put in that the gender identity should be the thing that determines which prison you go to and not the reality of your sex. Mm-hmm. And the Trump administration updated this, and the updates are perfectly reasonable. There is no other way to interpret them, because even if you're on the side that this should be taken into account in circumstances, well, that is what happened. So they took the TEC will recommend housing by gender identity when appropriate, deleted that and replaced it with the TEC will use biological sex in the initial determination for designation. So initially, we're just going to we're going to put you in the biological sex prison. And they ignore the fact that it also comes up under more advice. The designation to a facility of the inmate's preferred identified gender would be appropriate only in rare cases after consideration of all the above factors, where there's been significant progress towards transitioning and demonstrated by a medical and mental health history. Also the fact that they wouldn't then cause a risk to the female prisoners, because that's where we're really looking here. What's wrong with that? I mean, that's not him saying this will become impossible. It's saying, okay, we're going to do it on biological sex, and if you can prove to us you are genuinely transgender and you genuinely have a
commitment,
a risk of being in a male prison and in a female prison, you would be safer, fine, we'll do it.
Yeah.
That's wrong. That's, which one of those standards would you pick? Anyone at home? You'd obviously pick the Trump administration one, I'd assume. And this is not something that comes out of nowhere. This is not writing because people hate trans people. No, in the UK we have had this issue. So if you can get the Guardian article up, this is a transgender prisoner who sexually assaulted inmates and was jailed for life because of it. I just want to talk about Miss White for a minute, because she's awful. So she was still legally a man and was put into a female-only prison. So in the UK, you have to show a 2-year commitment to being transgender, and then you are recognised legally as a female. So she hadn't done that.
Right, okay.
But she was put into a female prison because she said she was female. That was enough. She was already found guilty of being a paedophile and was on remand for grievous bodily harm, burglary, multiple rapes, and other sexual offences against women.
LGBT aren't sending their best, are they?
A pedo, a rapist, and a sexual offender. Let's put her in with the women because she says she is a woman.
Amazing. This isn't a bad actor taking advantage of any of this or anything.
Yeah, she had additional convictions for indecent assault, indecent exposure, and gross indecency involving children, animal cruelty, and dishonesty.
I remember covering this a few years ago when this came out and just being like, this is what we're going to get, and it turns out this is what we're getting.
Yeah, this is not some fantasy that right-wingers make up to scaremonger. These people do exist, and they do carry out these crimes. So she was transferred to a female-only prison after being arrested on suspicion of repeatedly stabbing a neighbour. Whilst inside, she sexually assaulted the women. So she's got this history. She then stabbed her neighbour. They sent her to prison. She's like, I'm a woman, send me to a women's prison. They said, yeah, that's fine. Shoved her in there, and then she started sexually assaulting the inmates. That's what happened. So she's since been sentenced, the life sentence, and been sent to a male prison because, well, that's the right thing to do.
Yes.
So this is going to happen in the US. These people will exist in the US, and they will carry this out under Biden. Thanks, buddy. And the response from the UK, which is the right thing to do, is to set up a transgender-only sector. So they set up a transgender unit. I assume we'll have to build transgender entire prisons at some point if the trans population keeps growing, which is perfectly reasonable. What's wrong with that?
Like, I don't see anything
what is the
wrong
issue?
with that at
We'll
all.
put trans women in a prison and trans men in another prison separated from all other groups. Like, what's the issue with that? It's keeping them safe, so it makes the Democrats happy. It's keeping them safe from the male inmates who would rape them, and it means they're not raping anyone else. But no, if they ask for it, they should just get it. That's what Biden has now put into
if they're
law.
not, if the transgender, female to male or man to woman trans are not safe in male prisons, then it would be ethically justified to
segregate them off, keep them safe from the other.
Keep them safe from them. Obviously, it'd be necessary.
In the same way you keep TR segregated from an Islamic population.
And if you've got man to woman transgenders who occasionally prey on female prisoners, then it makes sense to separate them too. I mean, maybe you can't have these even in the same separated prisons.
No, 2 separate prisons.
So you'd have to have, male to female and female to male prisons, maybe. I can't imagine they're going to be too full, to be honest. But
you could make units instead, wards, we've done. But the ideal situation would be separate prisons entirely, obviously.
Yeah.
But that's not good enough. Biden is going to make it law that no, well, then we should return to, if they ask for it, they should just be able to go into that prison. And the TERFs are right here. Mm-hmm. It's not just a one-off. There's not just an occasional issue of this. The Times reported on this. So this was a study looking over 5 years. And they said transgender prisoners are 5 times more likely to carry out sex attacks on inmates at women jails than other prisoners are, official statistics show. So this is over a long time period. You look at the transgender inmates that go into female prisons, they're committing sex attacks far more. It's not just a one-off. And we've learned the hard way, and we're now fixing this. America's just going to have to learn the hard way. There's just going to have to be a few rapes in female prisons before the message gets through to Biden's skull. That's just what's happening.
Even if that is the case, even if he will change his mind on this, because it's entirely possible that he won't. It's entirely possible he'll commit to theory rather than reality and just keep driving that home regardless of what happens in reality.